we're now at the point that most of us are here for. Now, most of you would have remembered back in May when we celebrated the 178th anniversary of our village. Mr. President came to our Thanksgiving service at the Bethel Congregational Church. He gave the movement a mandate. He said, 8th of May, you must do something for emancipation. And so we have taken up that mandate with great pride, and we have combined a program, not just of this evening's cultural program, but we have on the slate our football tournament and also our emancipation / fun day and barbecue. Today I want to introduce to you a man who is still calm, quiet, but powerful. Somebody who I personally admire. Somebody who takes the definition of being still and knowing who God is, and knowing that he is a servant of God and that he is working towards the development of his people. We want you to stand as we put our hands together to welcome His Excellency, President David Granger.
You don't always need steps, you know. Thank you, Ms. Letitia Stewart. Please be seated, my brothers and sisters. Honorable Minister of Social Cohesion, Dr. George Norton. Minister in the Ministry of Communities, Ms. Valerie Yearwood. Regional Chair, Ms. Genevieve Allen. Regional Councillors for the Demerara-Mahaika region, Chair and members of the 8th of May movement, and thank you very much for this magnificent turnout of Baronians. I was here, as Ms. Stewart said, 3 months ago for the 8th of May movement. And this demonstration tonight, from the time I came into the gate, the majorettes, the crowd, the enthusiasm, it means you all have to invite me again next year. Ladies and gentlemen, residents of Beterverwagting and other communities, I'm very happy to be here, although I had to explain that I've got to go to Plaisance in the morning, then I have to go to Union Village on the quarantine. So I must apologize that my time with you tonight will be very limited. But I had to be here. I couldn't not be here after I encouraged Ms. Stewart to have this magnificent ceremony. You know, everything I've seen since I've come here, the exhibition, the children, the cultural performances, all demonstrate the power that we have as a people in Guyana. And I'd like to commit to the leaders, the members of the committees which organize this celebration, if you can put together the history of Beterverwagting, I will pay to reprint that history so the little children in this village can have it. Every family must have a copy of the history of this magnificent village. My brothers and sisters, you know very well, 180 years ago, our foreparents struggled and they won what I would call social emancipation, legal emancipation. But today, 2016, all of us, man, woman, and child, have an obligation to bring about what I would call economic emancipation. We have to make poverty history. Just as we've made enslavement history, We have to make poverty history. In the past, I've spoken of the 4 horsemen of the Guyana apocalypse. Crime, we have to make crime history. Disease, we have to make disease history. Poverty, we have to make poverty history. We have to build a society. And just as our foreparents 180 years ago, unlettered persons, uneducated persons, they never went to school, but they had common sense. They had a vision of the future. And we here tonight must have a vision of the future, where we want BV to go, where we want Guyana to go. And it is towards economic emancipation that we must turn our efforts. Every day, life is changing in Guyana, and we must not be left behind. There is out there in the Atlantic a powerful resource that belongs to all of us. It is not for foreigners. It is not for strangers. It's not for outsiders. It's for you, your children, and generations to come. But we in Guyana have to prepare ourselves for that economic emancipation. So I'm very proud that the 8th of May movement is active again. I'm very proud that the 8th of May movement has been able to recount and to celebrate the original proprietors of this village. Beterverwagting is one of the oldest. It is one of the boldest. It is one of the noblest villages in this country. I say so. It was one of the big 6 villages. Even the colonial government referred to the big 6 villages. Buxton, Bagotville, Victoria, Pleasance, Queenstown, and BV. Those were the big 6. Big in population, big in ambition, big in economy. So you have a lot to be proud of. But tonight we're not here to celebrate the past. We're here to think about the future and making our villages free from economic privation. 1st of August was important. It was a day of departure. It was a day of deliverance. It was a day of determination. And it was the birth of our nation. And I make no apologies for saying so. 1st of August 1838 was the birth of our nation. And I've embarked on a program of recognizing every ethnic group in this country. On the 12th of January, I went over to Windsor Forest. I celebrated Chinese Arrival Day because the Chinese came after African emancipation. On the 3rd of May, I went to the Sacred Heart Church and celebrated Portuguese Arrival Day because the Portuguese came on the 3rd of May 1835 before emancipation. And I went to Highbury on the East Bank, Babis. On the 5th of May, I celebrated Indian Arrival Day. I am not dividing the ethnic groups. I am building respect. I am teaching Guyanese to respect the Chinese, to respect the Africans, to respect the Indians, to respect the Portuguese. And that is how we build cohesion. Not by ignoring or neglecting, but by respecting each other. let me come back to the topic. Emancipation Day released the energies of the enslaved Africans. In less than a year, they started to walk off the estates, the plantations. Why did they do that? They do that because the white planters had started to cut down their fruit trees, started to dig up their provision grounds, so that they wouldn't be independent. They would continue to work on the plantations cutting cane. But the Africans wanted their women to come out of the cane fields and cultivate their own garden plots. They wanted their children to go to school. And it was only as a result of that provocation that from 1839 they started to walk off the plantations and create what we call the Great Village Movement. But tonight, my brothers and sisters, I have not come to celebrate the past. I have come to stand with you on this sacred night in Guyanese history, to look to the future and to plan what we'll be doing, not next week or next month, but for the next 10, 20, 30 years. You know, many of you are Christians, and I'm sure that you read the Bible. All those who read the Bible, let me see you wave your hand. All right. Well, you know, in the book of Matthew 25, 14-30, there's a parable by Jesus. It's called the parable of the talents. And this is what Matthew says in 25:14. The kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another he gave 2, and to another 1. But I think you all know the story about the talent. Who was the Lord? The Lord was your ancestors who bought these villages, 100 villages. He was the Lord who bought these villages and handed them down to you. What did you do with them? What were the talents? The talents were these lands, the back dams. The talents were the farms with all of the fruit trees, ground provision. The talents were the homes, the schools, the churches. These were the talents that we inherited. And who are the servants? We are the servants. We didn't buy these villages, we inherited them. Somebody gave them to us. We didn't dig these canals, somebody dug them for us. And we are thankful and grateful to them. And what was the kingdom? The kingdom was the good life. It was freedom from enslavement. Generations did not have to go out looking for a house not here or a house not there, looking for a farm here or a farm there, trying to build a church here or a school there. They got all of those things because of the struggles of the ancestors. But my brothers and sisters, you know the story of the servants. The one that got 5 talents invested his talents and got 5 more. The The one that had 3 talents invested his talents and got 3 more. But the third one, he didn't do anything with his talents. He was the wicked and slothful servant, and the Lord said, take away what he had and give to him who had. And let me tell you that 2,000 years ago, Jesus was saying this. And if you waste your talents, it will be taken away from you. If you do not make use of the talents that your forefathers gave to you, you will be poor. They did not intend you to be poor and destitute. They intended that you should never be slaves again. So we must understand this parable of the talents. We must not sit down on our hands. We must go out there and use our talents. This is what Jesus was saying 2,000 years ago. He's not a capitalist, he's not a businessman. But he had a message for you and for all humanity for all time. Do not be wicked and slothful. Go out there and use your talents to enrich yourselves and your children. That is economic emancipation. No matter how much we sing and dance, in the final analysis, our lives will be determined by how we make our living. If we make our living by hanging around the corner, liming at the Guinness bar, we will be forever poor. But if we go into our farms, go into our workshops, go into our schools, we'll be able to build prosperity. My brothers and sisters, when I was in opposition some years ago, I brought a motion calling on the government of the day. Remember, I was in opposition, so you know who's the government of the day. Today, I'm the government of the day, I can tell you that. But at that time, when I was in opposition, I asked for the 7th of November to be declared National Day of Villages. Everything I do has a reason, you know. Everything I do has a purpose. And of course, the government of the day blocked the motion. As soon as I got into office, I didn't worry the motion. I just made a declaration. I didn't need a motion anymore. I just declared the 7th of November National Day of Villages. Why did I do that? Because I believe in villages. I believe in BV. I believe in Buxton. I believe in Hopetown. I believe in Queenstown. You are the cradle of the Guyanese nation. Not only African villages, Indian villages as well. Not only Indian villages, Amerindian villages as well. Up to now, most Guyanese still live in villages. They don't live in Linden alone. They don't live in Georgetown alone. They don't live in New Amsterdam alone. Most Guyanese live in villages. Up to now. They come from villages. And most agricultural produce comes from the villages. Without the villages, we'd starve. My brothers and sisters, we must not allow our villages to degenerate into dormitories, where every morning people catch the minibus and clear out, and every evening they come home to sleep. If that continues to happen, the village economies will shrivel. I'm not saying anything is wrong with going to work in other places. But let the 8th of May movement, let the 1st of August movement look inward and discover the economic miracle which our forefathers discovered 180 years ago. That success is here, the talents are here, prosperity is here. And we must encourage our young people by every legitimate means to make use of their talents. And they are talented. Look at what you saw on the stage tonight. This is talent, cultural talent. Look at what you saw in the exhibition. That is talent, intellectual and artistic talent. First of all, and most important, as I told the 8th of May movement 3 months ago, Ms. Stewart could remind me, I didn't go to give a lecture or a sermon. I didn't go to make an address. But when I saw the congregation, I was moved to speak out of love and respect. And what I told them then, I have said in other places, and I repeat tonight, that our foreparents, although they didn't pass NGSA, they never went to Queen's or President's College. They were able to build these villages on 4 pillars. The first pillar was the home. On the sugar plantation, they did not have homes, they have hovels. They didn't live in lodges, you know. It wasn't pretty. They live in hovels, dirty places, and they wanted to get out. If they had 1,000 chickens, the chickens were inside with them. They wanted to get out. But most of all, they wanted to have their families around them. You know, during the period of enslavement, they couldn't marry. Their wives would be taken away. Their children would be taken away. But from the moment they got free, some men who'd been sent to Wakanam and Legwan walked all the way back to BV and to Friendship and to Buxton to find their women, to reunite their families. So that was the first great impetus for the village movement, to build family homes. That is how strong the feeling of familyhood was 180 years ago. The second pillar was the church. Our foreparents were God-fearing people. They worshiped God. And they built churches. They didn't get any grant. They built churches with their hands. And to the most extent, to the greatest extent, the congregational churches were in the lead, catering to the needs of the newly freed people. So the villages were like a house which rests on 4 pillars. One pillar was the home. The second pillar was the church. The third pillar was the school. Because they wanted their children to learn to read and write. They didn't want their children to grow up ignorant. They had regard for education 180 years ago. And the 4th pillar on which the village rested was the farm. And every household had to eat. And every household had a farm. So the village rested on 4 pillars: home, church, school, and farm. And I tell you, BV, if you kick down those pillars, the house will fall. If you kick down the school, BV will fall. If you kick down the church, BV will fall. If you disregard the family home, BV will fall. You hear me, man? You hear me? And if you abandon those farmlands, you will be confined to living a life of wage earners instead of becoming independent and prosperous farmers. So I urge you tonight, as we seek economic emancipation, I urge you, mothers and fathers, to ensure that every child in this village goes to school. Every child in school. No skulking. No dropouts. You know, some of you see a presentation being made of a bicycle. Sometimes you see a yellow bus called a David G bus. If you live in a riverine area like the Pomeroon or Demerara, you see some yellow boats. These buses, these boats, these bicycles are meant to take children to school. They're not decorations. They're not part of an election campaign. They're meant to keep children in school. And I'm very glad the 8th of May movement is focusing on giving vouchers to children and keeping them in school. So let's put our money in buses, boats, and bicycles, not in vodka, rum, and gin. Let us put the children first. If our foreparents were drunkards, we wouldn't be here today. But they saved their money and they bought these villages, not for themselves, but for future generations. So emancipation means education. It means liberating yourself from ignorance. Once you're educated, you can be anything you want to be. You can be a petroleum engineer, a doctor, accountant, a manager of a business, president. You can be president. Yeah. How about that? You want to be president? But you have to be educated. You have to go to school. You have to learn to read, write, count, and spell. Sometimes you have some big persons, you know, he's got earrings, and he can't even spell cat. You know, can't spell dog. 18 years old, 20 years old. We have to put an end to ignorance. And I want not just the Mayor movement, I want the whole village to embrace the need for education. Every child. If there's a child in your street who cannot get to school because of transportation problems, get some minibus driver or some taxi driver to help to get that child to school. If the child doesn't have anything to eat, let that child get something warm in the morning so he or she doesn't fall asleep when he goes to school. But let us make a pledge. This Old Year's night. You know, tonight is Old Year's night. Tomorrow is New Year's Day, believe me. Make yourself a New Year's wish, a New Year promise, a New Year pledge to ensure that every child in this village will go to school. And you'll see the transformation. The second thing I want you to promise is that you'll help your villagers to find employment, job. All over this country you see young people who are out of work. 10 o'clock in the morning, Thursday morning, Tuesday morning, you see people not working. Why? The fathers have land, the mothers got land, but they're just waiting to catch the hand. At night, I don't know where they get this money from, but they always got the best cell phone and the best sneakers. But we need to make sure our young people have employment, have jobs, right here in this village. How do you think our forefathers survived? You think they went to survival to buy food? They went to Matai to buy food? They went to Niger to buy food? They ate what they grew. And you in this village could sell what you grow. You can, by way of agro-processing, produce the best fruit juices for your children and your village. The best jams and jellies, the best chips. These are not activities that require millions of dollars. Your grandmother used to do it. Your grandmother used to make guava jam and guava jelly and guava cheese and pepper sauce. And we must recapture that spirit of employment. You must feel ashamed if you don't have work. Some people are proud when they don't have work. They want a raise. They always want a raise. You give them a raise today, next month they come back, they want another raise. But we have to promote self-employment in this village and all villages. It is no point, my brothers and sisters, trying to look for a job in the army or look for a job in the police or look for a job in the public service. There are just so many people the government services can occupy. The solution is to find employment right here, off the land, by farming, by manufacturing, by processing, by trading. And all of these values, my brothers and sisters, can be given strength by your empowerment. You know, when I was in opposition, I picketed the president's office every week, demanding local government elections. I said the people must be empowered. You cannot go on for 20 years without allowing the people to elect their own NDCs and municipalities. No more IMCs. And in less than a year after I got into office, I held local government elections. Because I believe you must choose. Sometimes you may pick the wrong NDC. But in November, you'll get an opportunity to vote again. And as long as I'm president, there'll always be local government elections. I'm not going to run and hide from the people. I'll face the people. And that's what I mean by empowerment. So, my brothers and sisters, Tonight, you've heard some hard words. But emancipation was a tough thing. It was a hard thing for our ancestors. Yes, there was joy. But on the 1st of August, 1838, there was no drinking and reveling. They went to church and they thanked God for the deliverance. The church bells rang all along this coast. But what I ask you tonight is to think not about 180 years ago, but of the next 10 or 18 years, when that mighty Atlantic starts to generate wealth for Guyana. I can do everything possible to make sure that the profits and benefits are equitably shared. But you and your children, your sons and daughters, must be educated and must be empowered to make use of that new talent. Don't be like the wicked and slothful servant. This is a chance of a lifetime. And you who are living today are witnessing the most transformative event in Guyana's economic history. The coming of the petroleum industry. Don't be sidelined, don't be left behind. Go to school, educate yourself, so you can do for your grandchildren and future generations what your foreparents did for you. My brothers and sisters, this country, Guyana, is the most beautiful country in the Caribbean. It is the biggest country in the Caribbean. Those of you who have a chance to see our islands in the Essequibo, to see our lakes, to see our savannas, to see our swamps, where the Kanji pheasant lives, to see our savannas with the giant harpy eagles, the giant anteaters, the giant waters, to see our mountains and rivers and rapids. You realize this country will take your breath away. You'd really tell yourself, God, give us this land. All I'm asking you tonight is take possession of this land for yourselves and for your grandchildren and children, so that we never be poor again. May God bless you all, baby.
We want to thank His Excellency for that magnificent delivery. On behalf of the Baby Triumph 8 of May movement and the people of Beterverwagting and Triumph, we want to say thank you for believing in us, and we want to say that we appreciate what you've been doing for us. In fact, the movement has already started to negotiate with some of the agencies in the Ministry of Agriculture, which have already supported us in our Emancipation celebration, so that we can get our building up and running and institute some of the programs that can get the youths off of the street. We know that it is essential to engage them, but we also know that it's not easy to engage them in stuff like agriculture. So what we're trying to do is to incorporate some aspects of sport. This is why we would have cooperated to get our Emancipation football, which is going to kick off on Friday. So that's just one of the initiatives that the movement has begun. So we want to thank you, we want to express our appreciation, and we want to take you up on the challenge of getting BV's history recorded, and we are going to hold you to that. Once again, thank you, and please accept our token on behalf of the movement and also the community.